Shame on that member for picking on Ukrainian war refugees.
The House is back in session. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have the Liberals launching personal attacks at Pierre, even insinuating that he's in the House of Commons illegally in his seat. Mark Carney takes a jab at Pierre during National Prayer Breakfast because, well, he's a jerk. That's why. We got a bunch of stuff here. Let's jump into this. Jumping over to the House of Commons here. We're going to start with the French section because the English section doesn't really make sense unless you see this.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The question was for the Prime Minister, who is here in Ottawa today. He needs to take responsibility for these three incompetent ministers. They are current ministers, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Heritage, and the Minister of Immigration, who have all been part of this situation. They've all been incredibly incompetent. Over 150,000 potentials of fraud cases that have not been investigated. Just 3% of cases have been investigated. Most of those have been abandoned. Will the Prime Minister take personal responsibility for his current incompetent cabinet and fire these ministers? I got into politics because I love my country, Canada. The opposition member got into politics because he had tendinitis. He thinks that Canadians are losers, and he thinks that his job is terrible. He's on video saying that. You know, that's not responsible, and that's why we support the Prime Minister.
This is just wild. Obviously, just flagrant lies here. He got into politics because of tendinitis is quite the statement. If you didn't watch the Rogan podcast, that's what Pierre said. He was wrestling, and then he's getting tendinitis. He had to take a break from it, so he ended up joining his mother in conservative meetings and then got into politics. It's quite something for him to try to use tendinitis as a way to discredit him. His other comment about being opposition leader being the worst job in Canada is a joke. Obviously, even Christy Clark said that the other day. It's a joke.
Mr. Speaker, with that kind of incompetent, incoherent answer, it's not hard to understand how that minister failed to investigate 97% of the 150,000 suspected cases of fraud in the international student program. Mr. Speaker, not only that, of the 3% that he did have investigated, they abandoned half of those because the suspected fraudster did not respond to investigators' emails. Mr. Speaker, this is the current Liberal government. Will the current Liberal Prime Minister take responsibility, fire that minister, the Justice Minister, and the Immigration Minister?
If he wants to talk about incompetence in politics, he need look no further than the mirror. Listen to the approach that he takes on Canada-U.S. relations, saying it's not the Americans' fault, it's ours, we're stupid. While his caucus colleagues go down to South to say that we're throwing a hissy fit up here. You want to see incompetence? Let's look at the Conservative leader's statements, calling the RCMP leadership despicable and calling on his political opponents to be jailed. We will move forward with thoughtful policy that ensures our immigration system moves with integrity while we welcome newcomers who can help grow the economy.
His statements there have no legs whatsoever. They can say all they want, but Canada doesn't have a deal. We have a broken immigration system, a broken justice system. People are stealing cars and invading homes. They got nothing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, this Prime Minister is rewarding and encouraging incompetence by putting the single worst immigration minister in Canadian history in as the new Minister of Justice. That minister caused a 300% increase in population growth. Now we know that there were hundreds of thousands of potentially fraudulent cases that he refused to have investigated. 97% of the cases of potential fraud were uninvestigated, and half of the remaining 3% were abandoned because the fraudsters did not respond to emails. Will the Prime Minister take responsibility for these incompetent Liberals and fire them now?
Yeah, this one hits close to home for me. I've had my identity hacked, which is a real pain in the butt because when someone hacks your identity, you have to register yourself with all these different organizations to say that your identity was hacked. So there's more protections in place for people just taking out loans in your name and all that kind of stuff. Because these fraudsters went and wire transferred my entire balance of my bank account to Milan without my signature. RBC didn't want to do anything about it until I started yelling in the bank. On top of that, I had my old YouTube channel hacked and then YouTube deleted it because the fraudster was committing crimes, impersonating another YouTube channel with it. I think there should be a serious penalty for fraud. You get all these scams pretending to be the CRA, this kind of stuff. It should be 15, 20 years in jail, like something very serious. How I protect myself now against scammers is you need a login security key Everyone should have one of these things. They're just a tiny little key, but there's a button on it you can push. So when I go to log into my YouTube channel, I have to push the button, otherwise it doesn't go through. Hackers can't get into my accounts now. So I highly recommend this. I'll link this up in the description down below.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me repeat for that member and his entire caucus. As I said, since 2025, 100% of the discrepancies reported were followed up. And they were followed up 100% since 2025 with the high-risk investigated. The Auditor General confirmed improvements took place. IRCC has tightened its approach, and we have control over the student visas. The numbers prove it. Thank you.
Yeah. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Okay, now the mystery is resolved. We have only 3% of the 150,000 cases of suspected fraud were investigated at all. Half of those investigations were abandoned because the alleged fraudster didn't respond to their email. But now we learned they have followed up with another email, Mr. Speaker, and the threat is clear. If there is no response to that email, there will be yet another email, Mr. Speaker. With this kind of total incompetence under the leadership of the current Liberal Prime Minister, why won't he fire these 3 ministers so we can get the system?
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me tell Canadians and this member and his caucus that the report examined 18 months. The government had already initiated improvement to the system way before the audit started. The Auditor General confirmed that the system is tightened, the student visas have been examined, improvements has taken place. Since 2025, 100% of referrals from institutions were examined. Thank you.
This is so desperate here, and they're just full of lies. We got this in the news here coming from Blacklock's reporter. Error by anonymous clerk is to blame for records showing PM Mark Carney was untruthful with reporters when discussing private meetings with Chinese leaders. Commons is told. They're backtracking and blaming a clerk about Carney's comments on discussing human rights with China. This is so embarrassing. Between this and the Iran attack on Canadian base in Kuwait, flip-flop, I can't keep up. Actually, there are more that are already forgotten. I guess voters just love it, though. That's why I try to keep them on the Carney lie tracker. I have a hard time keeping them all on there too. Once again, Mark Carney didn't show up for work again today. What's Carney up to? National Prayer Breakfast. And what does he do here? He takes the opportunity to take a jab at Pierre Poilievre during National Prayer Breakfast speech. We're not going to listen to 6 minutes of this, but...
In a short reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call him Emmanuel.
So he does the National Prayer Breakfast speech, and then towards the end, this is deplorable.
It's a life which recognizes that in pursuing virtue, we help build it in ourselves and in others. We expand its practice and give it life. I know there's some Stoics in the room, so I will close by channeling Marcus Aurelius.
Look at this guy. He knows Pierre Poilievre has come out recently a couple of times and said that he's practicing stoicism or he appreciates stoicism, and this guy cannot help himself.
I know there's some Stoics in the room, so I will close by channeling Marcus Aurelius. Arise for the work of humankind. Be humble. However grand you are today, or maybe to become tomorrow, you too will be forgotten. With the centuries, our names become puzzles. But our generosity can live on as examples that multiply through the values in the service of others, a worthy past sedimented into a better future. May we give thanks for the generosity we each have received and for which we are now called to pass on.
It's really rich, him talking about generosity when he's taking so much from Canadians. Looks like he got his Order of Canada pin fixed, though. It fell on the tarmac, and he was complaining about that to King Charles. Quite astonishing here that he takes such pleasure in being a jerk to Pierre Poilievre during a National Prayer Breakfast speech.
I know there's some Stoics in the room, so I will close by channeling Marcus Aurelius.
Look at this, a little flossing of his tongue. He just can't help himself. He loves being a jerk. The arrogance of this guy, I think, is more than Justin Trudeau. He exudes it in a more subtle manner. The comments here not too kind to Carney. Good, I'm glad he's reading the Bible. He's an evil, greedy pig. Nice of him to take some time off his never-ending vacation. I thought Muslim values are Canadian values, according to Carney. How about keeping some of the taxes instead of Ottawa showing generosity to everyone except me? Who did Carney pray to? He wants to end freedom of religion for Christians and Jews. So jumping back to the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, I admit it's unfair for the Prime Minister, the Liberal Prime Minister, to force that minister to respond for all of the mistakes of her two predecessors, whom he has promoted. But it really is the illusion of this Prime Minister. He refuses to stand and answer questions today, although he is in Ottawa, on the fact that we have the only shrinking economy in the G7, the worst food price inflation in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, 100,000 jobs lost in the first 2 months of this year. Will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up now and defend his terrible Liberal track?
What is this, Terry Springer? Steve needs to stand up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We will stand up every day and be proud of the Liberal track record in standing up for Canada and building Canada. And what the Leader of the Opposition has been treated to today is a minister who is in control of this file, who has seen immigration levels, student visas go down. In fact, for the first time ever, Mr. Speaker, last year Canada dropped 100,000 population. Canada has one of the best immigration systems in the country.
You know who's leaving? It's two types of people. It's one, people who came here from India who are promised a better life and finding out it's a much worse life. And the other group of people are highly productive, highly intelligent Canadians with multiple degrees that have gone down to America to live a better life. Meanwhile, we see all of Carney's newest Liberals on the front bench here. I don't know who all these people are. They put them there to try to make this look like a new government. It's the same old government with barely a handful of new faces.
And people are proud of it. People stand by it. And
I can't believe Canadians voted for this again. We were supposed to get rid of these guys a year ago.
Mr. Speaker, we are following what's happening at the Supreme Court very closely this week. Some of the speakers are excellent. Some are somewhere between stupid and insulting. While there's still time, will the government recognize that it should say to its lawyers to cancel what they have said and ask its lawyers to not plea against Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for his question. It's very important to clarify the federal government's position. We have an opportunity and an obligation to defend the Constitution. It's possible to defend the French language and the Constitution at the same time. What is happening before the Supreme Court of Canada? Well, that's the appropriate place to have that discussion.
So if you didn't see the morning video, Carney's trying to limit or get rid of the notwithstanding clause because, well, they want draconian power. He wants to be the king of Canada. He doesn't want to have anyone going around his net zero on all these crappy liberal laws. This is hitting Quebec right now. It's going to hit all of Canada, essentially.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec National Assembly passed a state secularism law in 2019. Whether you like it or not, it is legitimate. Is the government telling Quebecers that the federal parliament is superior and has authority over the Parliament of Quebec? Is Liberal Canada, does it think that it's the boss of Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I have a hard time understanding the question from my colleague. First of all, we are in a state of law where it's possible for groups and citizens to challenge laws before the courts, and that can go all the way to the Supreme Court. That's what's happening right now with Bill 21, Mr. Speaker. But if he's saying that the federal government is using the disallowance power, it hasn't been used since 1943. I wasn't even born the last time that happened. I don't think he was born either the last time that happened. We have no intention of using the disallowance law.
Yeah, they're trying to skirt around this.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, I'd be lying if I said that I was surprised that he doesn't understand. Pierre Elliott Trudeau's Canada imposed a constitution on Quebec. Quebec did not sign that constitution, and it's never accepted it. And now today we're being said that according to that constitution and its charter, which was put in place against Quebec, that Ottawa is the boss. Does Liberal Canada, which is going against Quebec at the Supreme Court, say that the National Assembly of Quebec should submit to the rest of Canada? Is Quebec a colony of Canada?
I mean, I think it'd be fair to say Liberal Canada is against all Canada, not just Quebec, and this is going to be flaring up separatist movement for sure in Quebec and in Alberta. This is just rocket fuel what they're doing here.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that Quebecers are very proud to live in a state of law where you can challenge laws. That's what's being done by Quebecers before the Supreme Court right now, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to let the Supreme Court do its work. Thank you.
The Supreme Court is stacked with a bunch of justices put in by the Liberals. For example, Chief Justice Richard Wagner. So he was actually brought in by Stephen Harper as a judge because he's pretty conservative on crime issues, but he's very liberal on, well, everything else. We see numerous articles like this, Unchecked Judicial Power. That's Chief Justice Wagner's vision of Canada. And we got this one from the Globe and Mail. Canada's Supreme Court is off balance as large and liberal. Consensus on the charter falls apart. This also mentions Chief Justice Wagner we see up there. It says a new era has begun at the Supreme Court, driven by new faces, new alliances, and new leadership. And I should mention Justice Wagner here was appointed by Justin Trudeau to the Supreme Court. Regardless, it doesn't matter. We got GM Forbes who posted this. I actually saved this from a while ago because I knew this would come back up. He says a Chief Justice who also attended private fundraisers for Mark Carney during his Liberal leadership campaign, number 99 on the list. And who do we have number 99 as he stated? It's Richard Wagner for the Liberal Party of Canada, private residence. Interesting. He's going to Carney's private fundraisers. This is Canada's top judge. Listen to this. So Melissa Landsman grilling Carney's immigration minister, and then McKinnon's response here is just wild.
Thornhill.
We get it, Mr. Speaker. They got follow-up emails, but it's even her Liberal colleagues who are telling the CBC that she's not fit for the job. But none of that seems to matter to the Liberal Prime Minister, because this is how it works in Liberal offices, in Liberal Ottawa, I should say. Step 1, you fail at your job. Step 2, you get a promotion. Step 3, you start the cycle again. That's what happened to the last immigration minister, who's the culture minister, and the one before that, who's the attorney general. So based on how it all works here, I have a different question for the Prime Minister. When is he giving the current immigration minister her next promotion?
Yeah. Step 1, you have a 25-point lead in the polls. Step 2, you have an election. Step 3, you lose your seat. Why is that leader of the opposition still in his seat?
Because he had a by-election and he won it? He's basically implying that Pierre Poilievre is there illegally. This is ridiculous. They ask you a question, the government has to answer the question. Instead, he's just slandering Pierre, making up lies that he's there illegally, essentially. These Liberals are awful people. They really are.
The Honourable...
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, the Liberals' immigration crisis is worse than ever before. They're giving sweetheart sentences to non-citizen sexual assaulters instead of deporting them. Bogus asylum claimants are getting better health care than Canadians. And there's over 150,000 cases of student permit fraud. There are millions of non-citizens with no legal reason to be in Canada, but there's no accountability. 3 of the most incompetent and destruction immigration ministers in Canadian history are still in cabinet. Why?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected this government last year because they know that this government has a plan. Our plan has results. It is not based on a script as they do on the other side.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know her file. Look at this, desperately trying to read what's on the page. This is so embarrassing.
Over the last year, we've reduced temporary residents by more than half. We brought the asylum numbers by more than third. We've refocused economic immigration like never before. It's been done.
Like never before. You know what's funny is every time I see her speak, I just think about that article where there was something like 7 or 8 Liberals. There was a quote saying something like they gasp, they hold their breath every time she stands up to speak because they worry that she's going to put her foot in her mouth and embarrass the Liberals. That's all I think about every time she speaks now.
Canadians can see that this government is focused and has a plan. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, let's look at the plan. 150,000 cases of student permit fraud. Under this Prime Minister, this Liberal Prime Minister, they just bought an entire hotel for asylum claimants with tax dollars. Bogus asylum claimants are getting better health care than Canadian seniors who have paid their whole life into the system. Yet that immigration minister still has her job. Why?
Well, here they go again. Here they go again,
Unreal.
Mr. Speaker. This immigration minister has brought a situation under control, a situation where last year Canada's
It's not under control when you're buying a hotel to host phony refugees in our country. These people just come over from India, they get denied citizenship, so then they just transfer over to refugee. They're not in danger in their country. It's just abusing taxpayers who pay for everything.
population actually declined. Canada's immigration system is admired, as our country is, the world over, Mr. Speaker. And this immigration minister is executing on a clear plan to bring temporary residents of this country down. And shame on that member for picking on Ukrainian war refugees for coming to this country and getting treated.
Shame on him for bringing that up. We know full well who we're talking about here. It's the tens of thousands of fraudulent South Asian refugees that come in. They aren't fleeing for their lives. And then, of course, he brings up war refugees from Ukraine. Disgusting.